So I was in the car last night talking to Mama Gut, and on stream we went through like all these tweets where Trisha was going kooky bananas, right? She was going crazy, honestly. She was like tweeting out a bunch of stuff in defense of Moses mostly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because she had fan backlash. Then later she had a meltdown and posted a bunch of tweets and messages to Ethan. I know I covered that. But what I want to focus on here is this. Is the Keemstar messages, because we had a very intelligent conversation. I feel it was intelligent. I mean, who knows? I'm a dumb guy. But we had a very in-depth conversation about Trisha Paytas and her motivations for things right here. And this is where Keemstar decided to post a bunch, like he posted this. Send emails / tweets to Trisha sponsors. Don't let Trisha weasel herself out of this one. Attack her money. This is Keemstar showing a subreddit of people saying that we should demonetize Trisha by going after the platforms that she uses. That's what she did. That's what Keemstar did. He put this message up there. And after this message was put up, that's when things got real. So Keemstar, I will always maintain, is not only a bad person, but not particularly intelligent. But he knows through, I'm assuming, raw instinct how to exacerbate a problem so that he can create a video off the problem, or he can somehow monetize off that problem. We already know that Keemstar sensationalizes every single story that he puts up there. I'm just waiting for the drama alert on Trisha Paytas. I wanted to check and see what was up. What was I saying? He sensationalizes every story, right? They call me Carson. I'm not a fan of Call Me Carson. He's kind of cringy, to be honest with you, now that I've seen some of his content. But 19-year-old who was like, you know, he was sending, we'll say, well, he was sexting a 17-year-old girl that was his fan. And that turns to this huge thing where he's like a predator, blah, 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 and he's not. Right? I have tons of crap on that. You can go look that up yourself. I'm tired of explaining the Carson thing over and over and over again. But he sensationalizes stories constantly. And so he saw Trisha going through a mental breakdown. And what's so funny is I've seen Keemstar say like, oh, Ethan, you're taking advantage of somebody with a mental illness, referring to Trisha, to make money. Well, this is exactly what he's doing here. He's exacerbating a problem by making it. And let's keep in mind a couple of things. First of all, this has no attention, this tweet. There's some attention. There's 33 comments. It's not that big of an attention. Okay? I have videos. I am on the H3 subreddit with more attention than that, and it's not even any like real attention. There's just a few people like, hey, blah, 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 blah. That's first and foremost. Second of all, Ethan never said that we should demonetize Trisha. The message that Ethan said was very respectful, like, hey, listen, we pulled an episode down because of inconsistencies with Trisha's story. You're going to have to clarify Trisha. We don't think that she's lying, but we just don't feel like it's respectable to keep it up. And then Keemstar pulls a small Reddit post up here and says, look, they're trying to take away your money. And that causes Trisha to go into an absolute frenzy. Now, like I said, I don't think Keemstar is intelligent. I think he just knows how to create drama. But he's obviously a bad person. But what is interesting to me, though, is, and this gets into an interesting conversation. Or it gets into a weird I don't know. Is after this happened, this did set Trisha off into thinking that Ethan actually was trying to deplatform her. And I'm trying to figure out how Trisha's mind works. Because what it seems like is that there's a trend from Trisha to absorb information, sensationalize it in her head, and then act like that sensationalized perspective is the real perspective. And she does it a lot. Right? So think about it. And this was one of the things we were talking about last night with my Mama Gut when we were grocery shopping. Back in the day, Trisha used to make videos where she wanted to be like Pamela Anderson or whatever. There's another girl, you know, Marilyn Monroe, or who's the other one? There's another girl that she looked up to. I can't remember her name. Britney Spears, but they're all blondes. There was another one I can't think of. Not just Paris Hilton. There's another one. Like, she was like a bigger one. I think she married somebody. People know who I'm talking about. Anna Nicole. Thank you so much. Anna Nicole. And for lack of a better term, she would take on the perspective, or she would take on the personality of like a big boobed, like kind of like a ignorant person. And that was fine, right? And then she would create that personality around it, which is weird to say, right? Trisha's not like other people where you'll like a thing and you'll become more of that thing. Trisha's a type of a person who becomes the thing. She wants to become the thing, and then she gets like rooted into it. And so she created a lot of mannerisms from that. A lot of them, like she plays dumb all the time. She's even admitted, like, oh, I play dumb just for attention, like that. She wants to be the blonde, big boobed bimbo. She plays dumb. She identifies with that, and that's a lot of her career. Now, there's really nothing. There's no downfall there. From a social perspective, pretending to be Anna Nicole Smith isn't going to screw you over. However, as time goes on, and it is possible that Trisha has trauma, but it hasn't been identified. The only one that might have credibility is potentially her mom's ex-husband doing something. But it seems like now that social narratives are very much in the forefront, we're having more mature conversations on YouTube and just in general as a society. Trisha seems to over-identify with those things in a bizarre way and victimize herself. And this is where it gets like a little sketchy, and I want you to listen to what I have to say here. And I want you to try to like understand this from my perspective. Trisha in the past has said that she sexualized herself more to get attention from like older men, right? It's not uncommon for young women to do that. I'm not saying it's common, and it's not saying that it's any woman's fault for getting like predatorized or get the attention from older men, because older men should never be giving attention to younger women. Well, you understand I'm talking about it in inappropriate engagement. But a lot of young women, like, they like the idea of talking to an older man, right? And it's the older man's responsibility to not engage with them. But there are times where the young woman will end up talking to an older man. It might be like a 16-year-old and a 24-year-old scumfuck will give them attention. Which is something that Trisha seems to talk about in her life, which seems to have happened. I don't know if they physically engaged. Obviously, that guy should be in jail, and it's not Trisha's fault. However, as time goes on, the social narrative shifts to things where it's like, oh, it's not your fault that those things happened, and like you might be a victim, which is a positive social narrative to go with. However, and this is coming from like Mama Gut's perspective, and I want you to try to understand, there was still a level of accountability there for the younger person, in the sense like, well, they consensually engage. They can't consensually engage, but it's not something that was taken from them by force, right? There's a difference between an older man taking something from you and you like going for it because you're not able to mentally consent and like doing something that you shouldn't have done. And the reason that I split those two is simply because I think what happened is Trisha probably engaged with somebody. I don't know if she did physically or not. And then when the social narrative was like, oh, you might have been taken advantage of, which she was, or you might have been predatorized, I think that she constructed a narrative in her head that she was, she was predatorized by that person. I think that seems to be something that she's saying. I don't know if that makes sense. That's like that's a tough take to try to communicate here. I know that's a really tough take. I don't know if you know what, to be absolutely honest with you, I think I need to talk to Mama Gut more about this before I talk about it any further. Because it doesn't really sound, I don't think I'm communicating what I want to communicate. I think I sound very ignorant right now. And I don't like the way that I'm sounding explaining this situation. So I'm going to drop it here, and I'm going to have more of a conversation. You think it makes sense? I don't know. I feel a little uncomfortable because I don't want to sound like I'm trying to make like rape apologist rhetoric where it's like it's her fault, because it's not her fault for an older man to talk to a younger girl. But it is somewhat common for younger girls to like to talk to older guys because they feel like it makes them seem more mature when older men are just scum fucks. It's very difficult to communicate. You understand? Okay, I appreciate that you guys understand. All I'm trying to say is that Trisha probably has, like, either way, I would consider both of those types of scenarios are inappropriate, but one is more traumatizing. Does that make sense? I think does that make sense? You guys in the chat saying that you guys are getting it. I'm going to talk about this with Mama Gut on the podcast anyway, and I think that's the Trisha's mind goes to the most extreme example of a thing. Does that make sense? Her mind goes to the most extreme example of a thing, and I think that she almost gaslights herself into believing that thing exists, Why is everybody saying yes? What the hell's happening here? I don't know what you're saying yes to. Sorry. No. Okay, now you're just saying no. And so that's my point. That's the point that you understand. Okay, that's the point that I'm trying to make. And I think that that's very indicative of the way that Trisha operates. And we talk about mental disorder, right? So Trisha has something wrong because she's probably on medication. I actually believe that. But she's probably on a medication for a symptom that could be attributed to like BPD. It could be attributed to schizophrenia. But it's really just a symptom. She probably just needs like a little bit of medication. And then, I asked if it makes sense. Okay. She probably needs a little bit of medication. And then she needs some therapy. But I think that a lot of her issues come from starting younger, come from the fact that she had bad parents. She was raised poorly. She doesn't have a strong moral foundation. And then she was sucked into the vacuum of YouTube. And I think that now we know social media and being famous can have a profoundly negative impact on your mental health. But we didn't understand it back then. And I think that Trisha actually might have an environmentally triggered mental instability of some capacity from those factors, where she looks at everything through a lens of YouTube and drama, and she eats look at any drama channel, even the ones criticizing Trisha right now. There are drama channels that are like, when Trisha and Moses, when there was like the information coming out about Moses, they're like, oh, Trisha Paytas and Moses are breaking up. It's like that you're sensationalizing a story. And even now, and that was done even more back then, where clickbait is encouraged, sensationalism. I've looked at, like, my YouTube algorithm is changing because I'm doing more drama stuff. And I'm seeing some drama stuff, and I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Like, I get a little bit of clickbaity stuff, but people they go so far like in this bizarre direction that it's like, this isn't even what I came here for. I try not to be clickbaity in my content. And the point I'm making is that Trisha Paytas lives in that sphere. And back in the day, she was trying to emulate the big tittied busty bimbo kind of a character like Anna Nicole. No offense to Anna Nicole. My mama God loves her. I speak very bluntly. But now we're talking about sexual assault and gender identity and expression. And those things are not the same. And so you can't get it wrong. And she seems to have gotten it wrong when it comes to the expression of her issues. Because she said a thing that she said, hey, there's verifiable information that this person molested me and then was arrested for CP, but that the information she told us to look at doesn't exist. Right? Anna Nicole is definitely listening right now. Maybe. I've watched the breakup stuff, and then the first minute they say they're getting married. Yeah, but it's like ridiculous, right? So I know this was very loaded, but my point is that there's something going on with Trisha. I don't want to give her too much of the benefit of the doubt, because like I think that Trisha's a shitty person, but I also think that Trisha is a literal social experiment, a YouTube social experiment. She was created by YouTube, and I think that this is what I think Trisha needs to do. And also, actually, I want to add a little bit of responsibility for Ethan. Think about it, okay? When Trisha first said that she was trans, she got shit on for not being educated on trans issues. Then she said she had DID. She wasn't educated on that either, so people were like, oh, this is dumb. Like, you're wrong. Then she educated herself a little bit, and then she went on H3, like the Friendlies podcast. And Ethan has social credibility because he's a reasonably credible guy. I think he's a nice guy. But Trisha would make claims about her life that, again, don't seem to be true. And then Ethan would be like, oh my God, that really happened, and wouldn't contest her on it happening. But leveraging assault claims and molestation claims, those are very serious accusations that, obviously need to be done responsibly, which Trisha hasn't seemed to have done it. And so I think what happened is she lied, and she was just validated on her lie. And again, I'm not saying she doesn't have trauma, but I think she lied about it, validated her lie. He validated her lie. Then she kept lying about it over and over again, and the story shifted to emulate whatever current narrative was in there. Like, she would lie about it, oh, I was molested. And then she would change a little bit and say, like, oh, I was molested, and I used to eat to be fat so that he would stop molesting me. To ride a social narrative over and over and over again. and she would change it to ride a particular social narrative that she would feel like was like relevant, so people would be like, oh my god, like you're part of the fat acceptance movement, or you're part of the the transgender movement, or you're part of the, because then it was like, oh, she was right, like I said, she was, oh, I was molested, then I was molested, and so I gained weight, so he was molesting me, then it was I was molested, and then I think that's why I don't identify as cisgendered. This is what I think is the amalgamation. Is that the right word? The anomaly of Trisha Paytas. And I think Keemstar absolutely is wildly irresponsible. He's encouraging this drama to happen. I don't think Keemstar sees Trisha as a person. He just sees her as a focal point for drama that you're going to make money on. And I think that Ethan sees her as a person, but and because of that, unintentionally encouraged her to be irresponsible with her accusations. And I'm not sitting here being like, oh my god, Ethan's such a bad guy. I'm just saying that like everybody does shit like that. Everybody makes mistakes. But I wanted to kind of throw in there a little bit that I think that they might be well, Keemstar's a fucking loser, but they may have unintentionally contributed to Trisha's mental breakdown. To end this off, I want to say that I think that my perspective on Trisha here is that she needs to take a lot of time off. And she needs to, like, truly explore what actually happened to her and come back with an apology and just tell us the truth. That's it. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because I felt it was important. I'm sorry, just anybody who made this far, I'm sorry if I felt like I invalidated assault survivors. I'm trying to express, like, a very nuanced take that's difficult to express.